welcome back to this lecture series on postcolonial literature. Now, in all our previous discussions about decolonization, we had assumed that the quest for decolonization ends in a nation state. That is to say that decolonization not only involves the creation of a national community, but it also involves the creation of a sovereign political entity or a state. So, in today's lecture, I want to talk about two individuals who, in spite of their being engaged with the politics of anti-colonialism, were among the staunchest critics of the idea of nation state. And we have to remember here that by the 20th century, the idea of nation state as a goal of freedom was accepted almost universally through the colonized world. But these two people that I am going to discuss today, one is Rabindranath Tagore and the other is Frantz Fanon. They spoke against this general consensus, which, as I told you, was almost universally accepted by the 20th century. And now that most of the erstwhile colonies have emerged as nation states, I think we should pay all the more attention to the criticism that these two intellectual giants directed against the formation of nation states, or in fact the very idea of nation. So, let us start with Rabindranath Tagore. Now, Tagore was born in Calcutta in 1861 in an illustrious Bengali family, which was not only known for its wealth, but also known for its involvement with the socio-religious reform movement called Brahmoism. Tagore's own involvement with various issues pertaining to social reform began quite early in his life, and by his 20s, Tagore was already the author of several essays commenting on the burning social and political issues of the day. Indeed, in the first decade of the 20th century, Tagore emerged as one of the tallest leaders of the Swadeshi movement, and Swadeshi movement, as most of you will know, was the first middle class led mass based anti-colonial movement in India, and Tagore emerged as one of its tallest leaders during the early days. Today, of course, Tagore is best remembered as a literary figure, and more specifically as the author of the national anthems of two nation states. One is, of course, India and the other is Bangladesh. And these two countries, India and Bangladesh, emerged as nation states from the once colonized part of the globe. But given this strong association that we form in our mind between Tagore and nation state, it might come as a surprise that Tagore proclaimed, and here I am quoting his exact words, "Nationalism is a great menace. It is a particular thing which for years has been at the bottom of India's troubles." This quotation is from his essay titled "Nationalism in India," which, along with two other pieces titled "Nationalism in the West" and "Nationalism in Japan," forms a kind of a triptych, which were these three essays were printed together in 1971 in the form of a book which was titled Nationalism. Initially, they were delivered as lectures, all of these 3 essays. In our discussion today, we will be focusing on these essays on nationalism to try and understand some of the major features of Tagore's radical anti-nationalist stance. Now, it is important to remember here that unlike Gandhi's views on anti-colonial nationalism, which once he had stated them in his 1909 publication Hind Swaraj, remained almost entirely unchanged throughout his life, Tagore's engagement with the ideology of nationalism passed through various phases. And the period between 1905 and 1907 can be used as a watershed moment here, because these were the years during which Tagore was most actively involved in the anti-colonial nationalist movement or the Swadeshi movement. Now, the years leading up to the Swadeshi movement, the years leading up to 1905, can be regarded as Tagore's pro-nationalism period. But post 1907, post, that is to say, Tagore's withdrawal from the Swadeshi movement continued well beyond 1907, but Tagore stopped being part of the movement from around 1907. And after this period, we encounter in Tagore's writings a person who has become thoroughly disillusioned with the Indian nationalist movement in particular, and with the ideas of nationalism and nation state in general. The 1917 essays on nationalism are generally considered as among the most elaborate commentaries by this later Tagore, this post 1907 Tagore, on the idea of nation and its inherent problems. But before we start exploring these problems that Tagore mentions, let us pay attention to how he defines nation in the first place. So, the question here is, what is nation according to Tagore? In the essay Nationalism in India, Tagore categorically mentions that his opposition is not to any one particular nation or the other, but rather his opposition is to the general idea of all nations, which he defines as, and I quote, the aspect of a whole people as an organized power. This means that for Tagore, nation does not simply mean or does not simply refer to a sense of community and to a sense of fellow feeling, but it also refers to the organized power structure of a state that a national community seeks to acquire for itself. So, when a national community acquires for itself the trappings of political power, it is that sort of bringing together of nation and state that we know as nation state, right. So, for Tagore, nation always means nation state. So, if you are reading Tagore's essays, Tagore does not use the word nation state, but he uses the word nation. But in order to understand his criticism, you will need to understand that for Tagore, nation is always or almost always nation state. Now, this definition of nation as nation state becomes clearer if we look at his other essay, Nationalism in the West. where Tagore states, and again I quote, "A nation, in the sense of the political and economic union of a people, is that aspect which a whole population assumes when organized for a mechanical purpose." So, according to Tagore, as this quotation makes clear, nation is not just any union of people, but rather it is specifically a political and economic union. In other words, it is a state. But the question here is, why does Tagore refer to this union, which we can use a shorthand version, nation state, to refer to? Why does he refer to nation state as something which is organized for a mechanical purpose? And this is crucial if we want to understand Tagore's criticism of nation and nationalism, because Tagore frequently uses the trope of machine, and he uses the adjective mechanical quite frequently to attack the idea of nation. So, let us try and understand. Well, first of all, what is a machine? A machine is something that is created to achieve some very specific purpose, right? So, therefore, in a mechanical process, everything else is subservient to that one specific purpose for which a machine is fine tuned. Okay? So, but for Tagore, a nation state works just like a machine, which has been fine tuned for a specific purpose. And what is this specific purpose? Well, according to Tagore, it is the purpose of creating maximum economic profit. Now, as you can see in this definition, the political unit of a nation state is seen as inherently connected with the capitalist mode of economy and its profit making imperatives. And in making this connection, Tagore is not entirely wrong, because in the modern West, the rise of nation states is inextricably connected with the development of capitalism. Therefore, Tagore not only connects nation state with the capitalist mode of economy, but also with the West. And in turn, he argues that because the idea of nation state is Western, it is a Western importation, it is incompatible with our Indian tradition. Now, according to Tagore, this alien idea of nation state, by organizing the human community for the purpose of material production and profit making, transforms individuals into one-dimensional men, whose only reason for existence is perceived as the creation of surplus wealth. In Tagore's words, I quote, "The national machinery of commerce and politics turns out neatly compressed bales of humanity, which have their use and high market value." Now, this creates a number of problems. Firstly, nation as a machine disregards the aspects of human being which are superfluous to the idea of profit making. So, for instance, the natural human tendency for altruism or self-sacrifice is disregarded, according to Tagore, by the machinery of the nation state, because self-sacrifice is not plugged into the process of profit making, in spite of the fact that altruism and self-sacrifice forms the higher nature of a human being. So, as I told you, the first problem with nation as machine is it disregards a very significant aspect of what it means to be a human. In fact, according to Tagore, it disregards completely the higher nature of a man. Secondly, man's position within the national machinery reverses the natural relation between man and machine and actually curtails his freedom rather than enhancing it. Tagore explains this point with reference to man's relationship to an automobile, for instance. Now, automobile can give man the freedom of mobility because the man is free to direct it and guide its movement. But as a machine, automobile does not automatically ensure this freedom. For instance, it will not ensure this freedom if the human mind guiding it, guiding the automobile is not free. Now, nation, by making man useful and relevant only as a producer and consumer of surplus value, actually makes man unfree, because in such a scenario, it is the national machinery which is guiding the existence of human beings and not the other way around. So, it is national machinery which is organized towards profit making, which is geared towards profit making, which transforms human nature and which dictates human life rather than it being the other way around. So, it is like automobile directing your movement rather than you directing the movement of your car. As Tagore explains, as I said, this is the second point. Let us come to the third point. Third point is that nation as a machine fine-tuned for profit making disturbs the sense of balance which should be at the core of human existence. And this I would like to quote from Tagore to explain this point, because Tagore does it really beautifully. And here is what Tagore says: in all our physical appetites, we recognize a limit. But in the economic world, our appetites follow no other restrictions but those of supply and demand, which can be artificially fostered, affording individuals opportunities for indulgence in an endless feast of grossness. So, the national machinery, by prioritizing this economic appetite, takes away all sense of moral limits and consequently robs an individual of his higher nature and makes him an incomplete man. Now, apart from this mechanical nature, Tagore also directs his criticism at the essence of aggressive competition, which underlines the idea of nation and nation states. And this is the second major point of his criticism. The first major point was nation as a machine, right? We have discussed its various problems. The second major point of Tagore's criticism is that nation is imbued with the inherent spirit of aggressive competition. So, according to Tagore, the organization of humanity in the forms of nation states, which is geared at making more and more material profit, and I quote him, goads all its neighboring societies with greed of material prosperity and consequent mutual jealousy, and by the fear of each other's growth into powerfulness. The time comes when it can stop no longer, for the competition grows keener, organization grows vaster, and selfishness attains supremacy. Now, if you remember our discussion on the scramble for Africa that broke out between the European nation states in the 1880s, you will see that it is this spirit of aggressive economic competition between nations which was largely responsible for the evils of 19th and early 20th century colonialism. And according to Tagore, in a world where greater geographical connectivity is daily bringing people into closer proximity, if nation state with its aggressive competitiveness remains the primary mode of organizing humanity, then the world can only end in an arms race leading to a sort of conflagration of suicide. That is how Tagore describes it. So, to recapitulate, Tagore's criticism of nationalism and nation state is twofold. His first argument is that nation state, by mechanically organizing people for the sole purpose of profit making, destroys the human depth of an individual and kills his higher nature, which is characterized not by a desire to make profit, but by altruism and self-sacrifice. Tagore's second argument is that the spirit of competition and selfishness that informs the idea of nation makes it an unsuitable model for a modern world where the distance between individuals and communities is ever reducing and where there is an ever greater need for humanity to come together as a universal brotherhood. Now, if we carefully read Tagore's essays on nationalism, we will see that at the core of his criticism is a capitalist mode of economy, because both the concept of profit making and the concept of aggressive competitiveness are ultimately associated with that mode of economic production, isn't it? But the problem is that this attack on capitalism per se is never clearly spelt out by Tagore. It remains all pervasive, but it remains very subtle. In the writings of Frantz Fanon, however, the economic criticism of middle class led nationalism is more clearly visible. Now, Fanon was born in the French colony of Martinique, which is in the Caribbean, but he moved to France at the age of 18 to fight in the Second World War. And after the war was over, he studied psychiatry and then later joined the psychiatric ward of a hospital as a doctor in Algeria. And it was in Algeria that Fanon became involved with the Algerian anti-colonial movement against the French colonial rule. Now, though Fanon died in 1961 at the young age of 36, within this very short lifespan, he had authored two very influential books. The first one is Black Skin, White Masks, that is its English title, and the second is titled The Wretched of the Earth in English. And both of these texts have now become canonical within the field of postcolonial studies. In our discussion of Fanon today, we will be focusing on the later of the two books, The Wretched of the Earth, which was first published in French in 1961. And more specifically, we will be looking at the section titled The Pitfalls of National Consciousness, and we will be looking at its criticism of the role of the middle class version of nationalism and its relation with decolonization. Now, in this text, Fanon argues that though the middle class nationalist leaders play a significant role in the anti-colonial struggle, the moment the nation becomes independent, they cease to exercise their role as a revolutionary class. Now, as I have discussed earlier, the process of European colonialism of Africa was guided by the requirements of the industrial revolution that took place there, which means that the African colonies were used as sites to procure raw materials to feed the industries in the colonial mother country. And within this scheme of things, the colonial periphery, which is Africa, is therefore, and any colonial periphery, not only Africa, also a colonial periphery like India, which acted as a site of procuring raw material, they remained industrially backward, industrially deficient compared to the metropolis, because that is how the economy was arranged. The metropolis was where the industry was concentrated in, and the periphery, colonial periphery, places like Africa for instance or India, acted as served as places from where the colonizers procured their raw materials and then dumped the finished goods in. So, we were both the suppliers of the raw materials and we were also the market for the finished product, but the industrial production took place in the mother country, and therefore, places like Africa and India remained throughout the colonial period industrially deficient. Now, Fanon states that ideally the middle class, which leads a country to independence, should reorganize the means of production of that country so as to end its dependence on the metropolis. In other words, to break this relationship between the periphery as a supplier of raw material and the mother country as the site of industrial production. But Fanon argues that after independence, the middle class does not take any such revolutionary steps to reform the means of production and initiate a process of egalitarian distribution of the country's resources. Rather, the middle class, having fought off the European colonizers, come to occupy the very positions of those departed colonizers. And here we are reminded of Gandhi's Hind Swaraj, because if you remember, Gandhi was also making a similar argument in Hind Swaraj when he was saying that, okay, if we send away the English, what kind of governance are we going to have? And if the answer is that the English educated middle class who fashioned themselves after the colonizers, they will take over. According to Gandhi, it will just be the English rule, the continuation of the British colonial rule without the Englishman, right? And Fanon here is making a similar argument in 1961. Now, as Fanon said that because the middle class merely takes over the positions of power from the departing colonizers, they do not reform the colonial mode of economic exploitation. They do not dismantle the colonial mode of economic exploitation, which is already there. Indeed, because the middle class fails to industrialize the newly independent country, it continues to remain the supplier of unprocessed raw materials to the industries of the mother country, even after independence. So, Fanon describes this economic dependence and continuing exploitation of the colonial periphery by the metropolis, even after political independence, as a new form of colonialism, which he terms as neocolonialism. Now, in this economic relationship between the metropolis and the periphery, the middle class of the newly independent country merely acts as intermediaries or as the middleman through whom the economic exploitation is channelized, and who in turn gets a share of the loot, right. So, the relation of economic exploitation which existed during colonialism between the mother country and the colonial periphery continues, according to Fanon, even after independence, with the only change being that the middle class who led the anti-colonial movement now occupies an intermediary position, the position of the middleman who channelizes and who sort of organizes this exploitation and benefits from it. Thus, though anti-colonial struggle is organized and led by the middle class in places like India and Africa, in the name of nationalism, there is seen very little attempt to really forge a national community by elevating the masses through revolutionizing the mode of economic production and through an egalitarian distribution of resources. Fanon also argues that this failure of the middle class to form a truly national economy and a truly national community leads to a degeneration and perversion of the nationalist discourse, which soon becomes the discourse of racist chauvinism, which is used by one African community to separate itself and to exert and assert its supremacy over another African community. It is used by one African tribe to distinguish itself and assert its supremacy over another African tribe. Thus, the bulwark of African unity, which won the anti-colonial struggle, soon disappears, and it gives way to a thoroughly fragmented landscape, which might have become formally independent, but which still remains a site of neocolonial exploitation. So, whereas Tagore argues in 1917 that nation should not be the model of socio-political organization that we should adopt when we formally do away with colonialism, Fanon, writing in 1961, argues that nation under the middle class leadership remains an unworkable model in the ex-colonies. Thus, clearly, in spite of the current prevalence of nation states in the once colonized parts of the world, there is a real scope to think through the problems of the post-colonial human community in a new way. In our next lecture, we will take up the writings of Homi Bhabha to see how this leading post-colonial theorist helps us reconceptualize the world order beyond the narrow confines of the nation state. Thank you.